So, let us start with the directives. New topic, right? With some new understanding, right? At the time of components, we have seen the definition of component. It is a hierarchical structure, right? And today, what we will do, we will see actual definition of the component. So let me open the VS Code. So actual definition of the component we will see. Okay. Now if you go here, Angular directives. So I told you yesterday, I'm going to have the difficult example today. So be prepared for that. Right? So when you talk about directive, you are talking about the capability of the HTML. Right? Directive is that foundational thing. What I'm saying? Directive is that foundational thing which Angular gives you. ng style is a directive. ng class is a directive. star-ngFor, star-ngFor is a directive. Star-ngIf is a directive. Model. It's an Angular 1. All these are the directives. Now when you see star-ngFor, HTML cannot provide you the loops, right? But by means of some special construct in Angular, you can iterate in HTML. So enhancing the capabilities of the HTML is one thing, one role of the directives, right? Now if I hover the cursor inside what you can say text box, that width of text box should be increasing, right? Presently you write the events and other thing, but I want to have only one thing, sizer. I'll go to the input box and write what? Sizer. Automatically all the things need to be getting adopted. Input box is there. Likewise, I like value as a property. I can just write sizer. The moment I'm going to attach the sizer, the input box will have a capability on its own. That is nothing but what? Directive is. So enhancing the capability of the HTML is the first task of the directive. Now Angular says that there are three types of the directives in Angular. So far, whatever we have learnt, right, all these are the components, and remember that components are nothing but the directives, but with the template. The actual definition of a component is the directive but with the template. Actual definition of the component is what? It is a directive with the template, right? Then another, structural directives are there, attribute directives are there. Structural directives are there, and what? Attribute directives are there. What are the structural directives? The special construct or the directives who are going to change the DOM structure are nothing but what? Structural directives. For loop, it is going to add tr into the DOM, or I want to, if I have one button, right, and I want to add the particular div and I want to remove the particular div on the click of that button. Page structure. DOM manipulation. If your DOM is getting manipulated by the directive, that directive is getting called as structural directive, who changes the DOM structure or the page structure. Well, attribute directives, they are the behavioral. The attribute directives who change the behavior of the element. Getting that? Appearance or the behavior of the element. They work as an attribute. Right? But the component has everything. Component are also directives, but with the template. Getting that? Components are directives with the template. Fine. So let's start with the structural directives. Right? Component we have seen so far in detail. Not many things related to the component we have seen. Right. Now let's jump to the directives. Okay. Structural directives. So let me create Angular basic and here open in the terminal, and we can see ngGC directives. ngGC and what? Directives. Okay, directives. In which project? Hyphen project. Which one? We haven't created the project, right? Okay, ng application. And what? Well, in the live project, you don't need to do like this, right? There would be only one project. But for your understanding, I'm creating separate, right? Which will help you while you will revising the things. You can go to the directive project, search for the directive things. Go to the data binding, search for the data binding. For that, well, there is one term called as micro front ends. If you want to implement that, you might need the separate project, but that's a very advanced thing. Micro front ends. There is one term called as microservices, right? But that is for the backend, dividing or delegating the different tasks to the different projects. Right? For email, separate application is running. For sending SMS, separate application is running. For CRUD operations, separate application is running. Communicating with the SAP, separate application is running. Means one application will communicate with multiple applications internally. Microservices. This is a backend architecture. Now on the front end, the same terminology is that for the dashboard, separate Angular application. For the chat, separate Angular application. For the login, separate Angular application. Right? For different aspects of your code, separate Angular applications. Then how they will communicate with each other? In that case, you might need these things. Micro front end. Remember the term is a booming term, and if you want to work with the huge project, consider that your applications are built in different technologies. Like one is in the Polymer.js, another is in the Angular, another is in the Vue.js, another is in the Simple.js, but all need to communicate with each other. Right? Little bit challenging. One is in the React. Micro front end. For that you need, well, if project is in another technology, their case is different. But if your project is in Angular, you might need to create separate application in the case of micro front ends. Right? But no one in the Pune uses this terminology, micro front end.
So what is the benefit of doing that?
Delegation. See, if I want to change in the service module, right? I need to upload the build for all other modules. I have service module, spare part module, I have stock module, I have inventory module.
Without touching that module.
I want to make a change in the inventory module. So I don't need to rebuild the complete application and deploy the dist. One benefit of doing that thing.
What if they are interacting to each other in that case?
That the interaction is not tightly coupled, that is a loosely coupled. Right, by means of some event bus or other thing, socket.io.
This change is impacting to the
Yeah, yes. If 10 applications are running, how much times you are going to do the testing? Right? All the functionalities are working well, and I have to make change in the inventory only. For that, accounts and the invoice module should not hamper. That should keep running as it is. I don't want to touch the code base of that. Once it's legacy, it's legacy.
But in that case, impacted areas need to be defined
Ha.
properly.
Yes, where you have to make an impact.
Else it would be no use.
Out of 10, if I want to redeploy only 3, that's good. Right? But one application is holding 10 modules. That is very much challenging.
Yeah.
Regression you need to do for
Each and every
each and everything.
minor change could impact.
Yes,
the application.
throughout the application. So, delegation of the code, separate code bases are really good in a huge projects. We are working. So we are working for one of the company. I cannot name it, but huge application is huge. 1 year development span is there. 9 months of development span is there.
9 months of development.
Yes, only development of 9 months. Each and every process they have documented that need to be converted to the software. And we are using Angular 8, 9 and micro frontend. For the communicating with the different module, we are using MQTT, one of the IoT protocol. MQTT. We are using this. Right. Of course, computer is also machine. Right. So
So same thing is the STDB, we send a token, we generate tokens, we maintain the
that is a rest. That is a rest. But there are some scenarios where you need to have real-time communication. One application is written in Vue.js, one application is written in AngularJS, but still both would be communicating with each other. One token has been generated in Angular application. That token I want to pass to the Vue application.
that needs to be verified from the view.
That needs to be verified from the backend and send it to the Vue. How do you do that? So little bit complex architecture is there, right? But we have achieved that and customer is extremely happy. Fine. So we created the directive. We have created the directives. And next thing, I would like to have the bootstrap. Right, this is a one-time job only. Although I'm creating separate applications, right? You can inject bootstrap from this as well. Can you see styles over here? Can you see styles are over here? Above this, you can inject the what you can say bootstrap CSS, but it will become then workspace level throughout the workspace. All the projects has to have the bootstrap, but some scenarios are there I don't want bootstrap. The plain HTML and CSS would be
So it's better implicitly.
but yeah. So go to the individual CSS, right, and write there. Here, getting that is a good terminology. So here you can have dot container dot row md and what 12. Okay, now what I want to do, I have one for loop over here, I have one one array over here, invoices is equals to array, right? What I would like to have just data. I'm going to have one file data.ts. What I would like to have data.ts, and what type of data? Export interface invoice. I have an interface. If you want to represent something just for data, use it as what? Interface. I'll show you what I mean to say. So what invoice would be having? Date. I can have date as type what? String. See, I'm just giving over here things, right? Not actual data. Then you can have date, then to, this is also string, then you can have from, this is also string, then amount is number, then quantity is number, GST, one of the tax in India, is number, like this. I would like to have. Your invoice might be have many things invoice is having, kind attention to blah blah blah, whatever. Not cover, will not take all that things, right? But from and to we can have, right? GST we can have, like this. So this is what my invoice data will look like. Are you getting that? This is what my invoice data will look like. For that concern only we have created this invoice file. Remember that this is not the directive, right? This is not the directive. This is just the data manipulation. How do you manipulate the data? Directives will come later on. Getting that? So I have kept this ready. Okay? Because first directive I am going to learn is star-ngFor. Very first thing. Then we are going to dissect the directives. What do you mean by star? Why do you need star? Getting that? But let me keep this as it is. I'm going to use it little bit later on. Right. So what I'll do, so here I would like to have an array of, if you can see, array of invoice. Array of what? Invoice. So what type of object this array will hold? Invoice type. Now what are the invoice type object? The object which would be having these things. Date is there, to is there, from is there, amount is there, quantity is there, and GST is there. Getting that? So can you see now it is giving you error? Because it's not matching to the data of type invoice. Right? You need to, not parameters, these are the keys. What's that? Date. You can have, what's the date? 22 2019. Then from Codekul to company. Then what? Amount 45,000. Then you can have quantity of courses, 3 courses. Then GST 18%. Right? Can you see? This is now data which is looking like invoice interface, and that's why they are equal. Same way I would like to have this. Once again I like to have, I'll change the figures. 21 December 2019 from company to Codekul 5,000, quantity 1, GST 18% mostly. From Codekul to Miller, here you can say quantity 6, 18%. Right, here you can say to RBL, amount you can say this, quantity 8, like this. Here you can say watch, whatever I am taking random data to, amount would be what? Now this data might come from the server. Presently I'm taking static data. 20, 19, 18 and what? 17. Laptop agency. To me layer amount would be this one 18%. This is my array of what? Objects. Array of what type of object? Invoice type of object. What is invoice type of object? It is an interface which would be having a date type whose type is string, which would be having to type is string, which would be having from type is string, amount type is number, quantity amount is number, sorry, type is number, GST amount is number. Right? This type of data this array will hold. Now I want to represent this data in a table. Getting that? I want to represent this data in a table. So you can go and search bootstrap table. Table A. Table example. Right in the bootstrap, you will find fantastic tables like this. Right, like this. Something like this. And like this. And like this. Like this. You can have fantastic tables. And I want to represent that data. Let's have the basic table. This one, right? So I would be needing table. Let me get the table and put it in an app component HTML. Is it in the rows or what? Or just in the container? What boot? Straight in the container, right? We don't need row. Okay, these are the heads. Now heads would be your serial number. Getting that? Then what is that? Date. Then you can have it. Then you can have date, then to, from, amount, well, these things you need to do in your project, right? Amount, quantity, and here you can say GST. This is the heads, right? Like this same you need to have this one, TR for serial number 1. We'll see how to change the serial number a little bit later on. Then this is date. This is to. This is from. This is amount. This is quantity. And this is GST. Right, this data we have replicated. Let me run the project. Tell me the command. npm start. Directives. So it's serving the directives in a moment. Okay. Localhost 4200. Can you see there is a table? There is what? Table. Now how to get this data in the table? Remember that all these becomes what? Rows. Are you getting that? All this would be becoming what? Rows. So Angular has given you one directive called as star-ngFor. Right. So what you want to iterate? This single row. These rows would be multiple. That need to be created. DOM for that need to be updated automatically. Dynamically, right? So what you will do, star ngFor is equals to let, means we know how to define variables in the JS, is let. What's that? Invoice. Variable name can be anything, right? But for your understanding, I can have invoice of one object of what? Invoices. This array. Getting that? Invoices of this array. For each loop. So you are saying let invoice, kindly iterate over the invoices, and each element of the nth element is going to be stored in which object? Invoice object. So here you can have invoice, and I can use the interpolation binding. Invoice dot date. Then we can have invoice dot to, invoice dot to. Then we can have invoice dot from, invoice dot amount, invoice dot quantity, invoice dot GST. Getting that? Invoice dot what? GST. And see now, in the table you'll get this data. Rows would be getting created dynamically. Getting that? Presently you have the data from the static array. Here you need to call one web service.
For data.
Here you need to call one HTTP web service. You will go to your backend REST server. REST server will make some operation and give you back what? JSON data.
And this data would be on the front end.
And this data would be represented on the component.
So that would be hard coded.
Yeah, presently it's hard coded. Presently you don't know how to communicate with the REST. What is the HTTP? We'll see in detail. Right? We are going to see that in detail. But this is how you are going to work. A typical example of for each. Getting that? For. So if you want to use the for loop, still this is not working. 111 it is showing. Right? Remember that along with these things, star-ngFor will give you the index. Select serial number is equals to built-in variable index. Index is what? Built-in variable which maintains the indices. Okay. Now here you can have, instead of this, you can say, and what's that? SR plus 1, because index is going to start from 0. SR plus 1. See now. Serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Now you need to show the total as a last row. What is the total? This into this plus this. Sorry, not this. Upon, yeah, that GST calculation formula. Right? And here you need to write the total and the gross total. Can you write that? Can you do that? But how do you show in the row? How do you represent in the row?
First you need to add a one row first.
Hmm?
Need to add a row that will calculate multiply by divided by GST in that particular TD.
In the TD, yes. Or you can show at the bottom as well here. Here you can have a total. One row is what? Total. Then taxable total, and then gross total. Task. This is a homework, and this is what you are going to do in a project,
Sure.
right?
Get that.
This is what you are going to do in a project. Every table need to populate, every project need to populate the data and make the calculations. Now, if you want to make it more complex, right, take all these values dynamically. Means instead of having this thing, what's that? For amount, you can have input box over here. Right? Type is equals to what? Text or number. Or number you can say. Right? And value is a property binding. Now instead of this guy, interpolation, invoice dot amount. If you are going to work with the web service, at the beginning data will not come. Data will come little bit later on. You'll hit something. Web service will hit, right? And there is some latency. Theoretically, client to server communication is within the 0 seconds. Theoretically, in the book, or HTTP say that. Theoretically, client and server should communicate in a 0 seconds. But infrastructure delay you need to add. That you can consider 3 seconds. So after 3 seconds, response is going to come. Until then, this invoice object would be undefined. Getting that? You will get an error. For that, you can add what you can say, question mark. What's that? We have seen the optional parameters. If it is there, then and only then show. Otherwise, don't show. Here as well. Otherwise, you will get an error in the console. Right? These three things need to be. What's this? QTY. And what's this? GST. Item-wise GST would be different, right? Item-wise GST would be different. Like this. These are the changeable. Right? And see these guys are coming. You need to write one CSS to hide this. You can hide this. That's not a big deal. There is one CSS. Right? Now if I change something over here, right, or if I make a change something over here, then final total need to be affected. Right? So you can, if you clear this table, your Angular would be getting, data binding would be getting cleared, directives would be getting cleared, and lot many things. Yeah, please.
You have made that interface.
Yeah.
Could you repeat?
Sure. So why we have created interface? So you are just saying what kind of data I have. This is just saying kind. Otherwise you can take array of anything. TypeScript says that be specific. Be specific. You could have written the any, or you could have removed this as well. It is not efficient use of TypeScript. Right? You need to define the type. That's what the TypeScript is. And that's what you can say your code understanding is. Right? And so I have created the kind. I want to create the data. My invoice will have a data like this.
If you change the invoices, that would impact on the
Impact on other thing. Yes, there would be error. This is not happen in the JS, because JS says that everything is same for me. Right? You can insert anything. But TS, if you make a simple GT over here, right, it will affect at this place. See, errors would be there.
because we are using that type of invoice.
Yeah, because you are using type of invoice. Getting that? Why I have created. And in the programmatic terms or the books, these guys or such guys are called as, what you can say, domains.
Is it sort of generics in Java, I think, and you're specifying a particular.
Not that, but it is kind of Pojo in a Java. Plain old Java objects. Pojo. Or domains. These are what? Domain object. These are nothing but what? Domain object, which will float throughout the front end and the back end over the wire. Getting that? These are the domain object. And now if I change, now your task, remember that what your task? First you need to remove this up arrow and down arrow by means of CSS. Then total you need to define over here. These only total, right? Then taxable total, non-taxable total, and total items. Getting that? Typical, you can make many changes in this table as per your convenience. Fine. Now I have shown you the use of star-ngFor. Right. One more quick modification I would like to do. At the beginning, there would be this much is a code for table. Right, this much is code for what? Table. Let me have one row dot colmd and the 12. If you can see, these are nothing but what? The domains. So your backend developer is going to give you one JSON. Getting that? And from that JSON you need to create these guys. And there are some tools online. You can see JSON to TS. Just put your JSON over here and it will convert to what? TypeScript. I'm talking about these domain objects. How many are backend developers here? You're a backend developer and programming language? Java. Okay. So you create the entities. Spring you might be using. So you create what? Add entity class. That add entity class will sit in the database. After that you create the DTOs. DTOs are nothing but these things. Data transfer objects are nothing but what? These things. These are the DTOs. Getting that? That will float over the wire. And whatever JSON you are going to give, that JSON you just need to paste here, and these are your, in the Java, POJOs, you can say. These are the POJOs. But more precisely, don't say POJO, say domain. Right? These are actual business domain objects. Hold the business domain data. JSON object, yeah, this JSON. Then you need to convert it to what? Interface. See, you convert it or you don't convert it. That's all about the standard. That is all about what? Standard. If you want to stick to the standard, you need to have these things. Well, without this also you can work. Right? Without this also you can work. But it is standard. I have an array of type invoices. Topic is clear. So when you talk about the backend developer, you will send, can you send me the invoice array? In that case, your invoice domain and the backend invoice DTO should be same. Entity might be different because entities might have some joins, mappings, right? But the DTO should be same. So how you will write the code or web services? First you will create the DTOs. What data I need to transfer? Then above that you need to have a service layer. That service layer will have the mappings, call the stored procedure, and make a DTO. And DTO need to be transferred to the front end developers. DTO will never change or change with the consent of the front end team, because all the keys has been integrated over here. Presently you are passing 2 date, and after 1 month you are just passing 2 date and 2 are different. That will create a problem, right? So you can have one button or input type button, and here I can say class btn and btn info. Btn and what? Btn info. And click you would be having, and I can say on btn. Which function I'm going to call? On btn, right? And here I would be having one boolean variable, is tab, is table visible, is equals to false at the beginning, is table visible, is false at the beginning. But the moment I am going to click the button, is tab is equals to not is tab. So it's a tea time here for the live streamers. Okay. Okay. So here I have created the button, if you can see. Right. Huh? Okay. So here you can say show table or show invoices. Show invoices is one of the button I'm going to use. Show invoices. Right. And until I click the show invoices, the table should not be appeared over there. Right. That's what the need is. Click, then list of invoices would be there.
You have taken the boolean flag,
That's why I have taken the boolean flag. And what is this?
not step.
Non-false.
But what is whole thing is what?
When you click on that,
What will happen?
If
this
it
will
is
store in
not
the is
false.
tab, and is tab is the function we are calling.
See, we have discussed that this is called as inline function. If your function is having only one liner code, do not write in the function tab over here. Right, straight away you can write, but say it is a function. On the click, it is going to call one function who is going to toggle the value. That's it. This is the toggling, right? Negation. This is negation. If it is true, it becomes false. If it is false, it becomes what? True.
So in that case, is tab is a function.
This whole is a function.
Oh, sorry.
And this is a one line code you can write in a function. This is that code. Inline functions in the Angular. Fine. Now I want to show this table or I don't want to show this table. That is going to be decided by one boolean flag. That is the is tab. Right. So what I can do, Angular gives you one facility to add content in a DOM and remove the content from the DOM. Add the content to the DOM and remove the content from the DOM. Likewise, star-ngFor is there. Star-ngFor, what it does addition of the rows in this case. What it is doing? It is adding this tr constantly until the length of invoices is there. Getting that? In the same way, whole table I can decide add it to the DOM or remove it from the DOM. Here you can say star-ngIf. Star-ngIf. If it is true, do this thing. Then add this table. If it is false, remove this table. Is tab. If you are from the Java background, right? If you are from what? Java background, you can call these things as JSP action elements. You might have used this, or which template you use, ThemeLeaf or plain HTML. Okay, no front end, fine, just REST API. Fine, now you can see table star-ngIf is equals to,
That is in the Java server pages.
that is in the JSP, not this. You can compare this with the JSP action elements. But the JSP action elements gets created on the server and Angular is 100% client side. 100% client side or PHP scriptlets you can see. Right. Now if I click on the show invoices, see the table will appear on your screen. Right? Table will appear on your screen. If I again click on this, table would be getting disabled or removed. Adding content to the DOM and removing content from the DOM is a responsibility of one directive called as star-ngIf. Star-ngFor iterating over the DOM. See this. Now I will show you in a vanilla JS. JavaScript, add row to the table. See how much lines of code is there. Insert row in HTML and in the table body, right? Insert row, and you need to get the table, then the T body of 0, then insert row, then insert cell, then document.create text node new row, and like this.
Okay, if we are finding the table,
column, then we are adding into that.
This is what we do in the automation of the Excel. Find the sheet,
Same,
and row.
XPath, same, you are doing same thing. And this is a vanilla JS, plain JavaScript. Document.getElement by ID, start adding it, start removing it. But here, your focus is completely on the data. You haven't written a single line of code for the DOM manipulation. Who has taken that responsibility? star-ngFor has taken that response. I will do internally. You just give me which invoice, array, on which array you want to render and what data you need to display. Right? This is data binding, interpolation. This is a property binding. Now if I change values inside this, make sure that if I change values inside this, the main source need to be updated. Source of the data need to be updated. Because that you need to post again to the server. You decide that. How do you do that? There are multiple ways. This is a homework for you. Right?
This week office today leave.
Sick leave. So this is a homework. And what you need to print? You need to print the total of this. You need to print total of this. You need to print taxable total. Just amount. Tax amount. And below that, gross total. That's what you need to do. Right? Then after that you can apply the filters from this date and this date. I want to show the invoices. Sorting. A simple sorting algorithm on the array. Right? That is a simple sort algorithm on the basis of date key. A plain JavaScript function is there. Sort. Sort. See, whenever you get deployed on the project, you all must be working on it. Right? First, foundations need to be clear. This is the array I have. How do I sort the array? Then JavaScript has a rich set of libraries. Arrays.sort.
Even we can compare the element by indexing.
Yeah.
We can swap the elements, then finally we can iterate, and then finally we can store them in indexing.
Yes. Now, algorithmic efficiencies you need to check. Big O notation. If your product owner is having that time and he wants to have a fantastic product, you need to check the algorithmic efficiencies. Right? Space complexity and the time complexity. Both the things you need to consider. And both the things are getting covered in a big O notation. Big O. Big O. Big O. If you want to check the data.
Here are three types of notation, big O, omega, and
Small o, yes. Big O will give you the space complexity and the time complexity. Right, you just go through it. That is, or if you want me to cover, but that's not part of Angular lecture, later on.
It's a goodwill lecture.
Yeah. But we do at the time of project management, at the time of code review, we just calculate the big O notation. What's the complexity? Fine. Now let us dissect the code. Let us look at star-ngIf and your, what you can say. Make a habit of collapsing the code and keep your code small in front of your eyes. Star-ngIf and star-ngFor. Both of these are the structural directives. Both of these are called as what? Why structural directives? They change the DOM structure. Right? These guys, so this add into the DOM or remove from the DOM, and this iterate and adds the element to the DOM. Remember that. Now, star, many people ask me, is it a pointer or what? This is not a pointer. This thing is called as, you can go here, Angular structural directives. So whatever I am telling you, all these things are coming from angular.io. Do not refer any book. Do not refer anything other than this. Only one thing. Angular.io docs. That's it. Full and final. Fine. So we don't have every time Navneet. Have you heard about Navneet? Guide.
एक tagline भी थी, नवनीत आती है।
You don't know Navneet? Huh? Ha. Before the board exam, it released one book. Just read that much. Ha. Huh? Ha.
That much of size.
So not every time, see, in a programming, you will get white papers only. If you want to implement something, make a habit of reading white papers. Right? So that is the only key to the success. Not every time you will get the synopsis. Right? Fine. Now this page will tell you everything about the structural directives. What is structural directive? Right. What are the structural directives are responsible for HTML layout? They shape or reshape the DOM structure. Typically adding, removing, manipulating the elements. We have typically learned this by means of the example. Sorry. Right? Typically learned by means of what? This example. Then this is simple. A structural directive, easy to recognize. An asterisk precedes the directive attribute name in this example. This is the asterisk. If there is asterisk, it is a directive, not the pointer. Remember that. Many people had asked me this question. Is it a pointer? It is not a pointer. It's pointer in C or CPP. Even in the Go language, there are pointers. Yes. So this is what you can say. This is just what you can say, convenience notation. Means if you don't write this, you need to write some extra code. You go here, right, and they have defined, prefer the asterisk syntax. The asterisk syntax is a more clear and the desugared form. Now I'll show you what exactly this means. Now instead of working on a table, I can have one more row, MD, and the 12. I hope you understand this Bootstrap 4 terminology, right? And this is a paragraph. I can say class, what's that? Alert, and what? Alert info, and you can have lorem ipsum. Keyboard. So this is the alert. I want to show and I want to remove, right? So I can do what? star-ngIf is equals to is tab. Same variable I can use. Is tab. So here you can go show invoices. Can you see? This is getting added. If I click, this is getting removed, right? But if you don't want to write the star, what you need to do, ngTemplate. Inside this ngTemplate, you need to have a property binding, and you can have ngIf is equals to, and remove this, is tab. Getting that? If you don't want to write the star, you need to write this much line of code. So star is just the sugaring syntax. Star will help you to avoid this much line of code. Now they have used the template tag, the improvised version of Angular's template. That is nothing but what? The ngTemplate. Now before understanding the template, right, ngTemplate, you need to know template tag. What is a template tag? See what they are saying for the template tag. The HTML content template is a mechanism for holding HTML that is not to be rendered immediately when page is loaded, but HTML5, right? And is it disconnected? And what? And ng template is an improvement to the template tag. ng template is what? Improvement, Angular's improvement to the template tag, Angular's way, right? Means what is a star? Star is nothing but the sugaring syntax, which will avoid or which will relax little of your work. Just attach a star and that's it, right? And this is also same things are happening here. You can see nothing is changed, everything is same. Getting that? So this is about what you can say structural directive. Lot many things are there. So they have explained many things, right? And last topic, what you can say that I'm not going to cover because that is not going to be used so frequently until you create your own library, that is creating custom structural directive. Let's not invest time on this, right? It is not that used in the project development, right? But if you need, it's very simple, not a big deal. You can create your own custom structural directive.
Like ngIf and
Ha, my ngIf, star my ngIf. You can build your own, right? But that's not needed for now. You don't need it. Okay. So another type of directive is nothing but what? Attribute directive. Another type of directive is what? Attribute directive. Now what do you mean by attribute directive? Attribute directives are those directives who are, what you can say, changes the behavior. I'll show you, right? Well, there is a one more structural directive, switch case. Getting that? There is one more structural directive called as switch case. You try it as a homework. You can try. Very simple, not a big deal. Yeah. No. Structural directive. Yeah. Switch case. Okay. Now here, attribute directives. Let me write attribute directive. So here you can have one row dot col md and the 12 column grid provided by Bootstrap. Right. And what I want to do here, and paragraph I would like to have, and here ng style, ng what? Style is equals to, you can pass JavaScript object, and inside JavaScript object you can define what? Styles. I have written the property binding because I can pass a variable as well. So here I can say border, and what's the border? 1px solid red, right? And to the paragraph I can have the placeholder content, this, and you can see this. Can you see little border? And I want to apply a little bit margin top 3, little margin from the top, empty 3. You can see this, right? Style, ng style is a built-in attribute directive. You can pass what? JS object. So you can create a JS object, sty is equals to here border and 1px solid red, 1px solid red, and from here you can remove the JS object and straight away you can pass what? sty. That's it. That's why we have used what? Property binding. Well, similarly you can have dot row dot col md and the 12, and here I can have one paragraph, and to that paragraph to that paragraph, I would be having is info is equals to false, and is danger is equals to also false. Is info and danger is equals to what? False. And here I can say lorem ipsum, and here ng class, and the property binding to the ng class is equals to a JavaScript object where you can pass the sequence of classes, right? Sequence of what? Classes. Here you can say alert is one class. Make sure that generally class names are separated by hyphen. Getting that? So keys also need to be written in a quotes, single quotes. Alert is, do you want to apply alert class? Yes, I want to apply alert class. Make it true. You want to apply alert info class? Yes, I want to apply alert info class. Is what you can say info. Getting that? Is info. Then I want to apply, make sure that it's in the alert danger, and is danger. Getting that? Alert true, alert info, alert danger, is danger, and like this. Now you can change these variable values, right? You can change these variable values. So let's have one more row. Let's have one more row, and here I can write button or input type button value is equals to info, and value is equals to danger, right? Class btn and btn info, class is equals to btn and btn danger, right? Here you can write the click function is equals to is info is negation of is info, and here to click is danger, is danger, right? Now these variables are going to be populated from here. If you see, by default these are false. Can you see I have added the class? Here I have added the class. Here I have, see this, true false, class is getting added. Getting that? ng class, which class you want to apply and which class you want to remove. This is not adding the content or removing the content. I just want to apply the class and I just want to remove the class. In the plain JS, right, we use the document.getElementById by ID, set class or the add class, right? Set class, add class, remove class, that functions we use to achieve this thing. Getting that? So you can use something like this. Attribute directives. The directives which works on the attribute. These are the attribute directives. ng class, ng style. Well, Angular has given you facility to create your own attribute directive. You can create your own attribute directive. Right, let's try to create that. Now what I want to do in my very own attribute directive, home, and where is that? Open in containing folder, this, and open in the terminal, right? ngGD. D for what? Directive. Same, you will create structural direct, same command. If you want to use your own, create your own structural directive, you can use same thing. Okay? Now you can create the fancy things by means of the directives, right? So what I'm trying to do is that, okay, so what we'll do, we'll try to create the input box, custom input box, right? We'll try to, or kind of password strength I need to check. If I type the password, right, the border should be with the different color, right? Let's have, say, pass checker, pass validation, or password, I can say. In which project? Directives. In the project directives. Okay? If you can see, laptop hang.